Look under your bathroom sink. Right there, behind the sticky bottle of cough syrup, the half-used sunscreen, and that box of Band-Aids you bought 3 years ago. Sitting in the back is a dusty brown plastic bottle with a crusty white cap. You probably paid about $1 for it. Maybe you used it once on a scraped knee, watched it bubble for a few seconds, then pushed it into the darkness and forgot about it. And that's where most people stop. They think hydrogen peroxide is nothing more than an old-fashioned first aid product, a cheap antiseptic with one simple purpose. But what if I told you that this exact $1 bottle could do more to protect one of the most expensive systems in your home than hundreds of dollars in professional maintenance contracts? What if I told you the multi-billion-dollar HVAC industry would rather you never discover what this simple bottle can actually do? Last summer, an HVAC technician stood in my hallway and pulled up a high-definition photograph on his tablet. It showed black spotting inside one of my ceiling registers. He looked at the image, shook his head, let out a long sigh, and quoted me $900 to clean my duct system. $900. I looked at the picture. Then I walked into the bathroom, grabbed a 30-cent splash of hydrogen peroxide, wrapped a rag around a long stick, and fixed the exact problem shown in that photograph in less than 5 minutes. 30 cents versus $900. That wasn't magic. It was simply understanding which problems inside your home are biological and which ones are mechanical. Once you understand that difference, you start realizing why nobody ever built a profitable service contract around a $1 bottle you might only need to buy once a year. Welcome back to The Roots Survived. Today, we're going deep into the science, the secrets, and the exact steps that can help you take back control of your energy bills and the health of your HVAC system. We're counting down 11 things HVAC technicians would rather you never learn about hydrogen peroxide. And stay with me, because secret number 8 will show you exactly how I avoided that $900 bill, while secret number 1 exposes a hidden expense you may already be paying every month without even realizing it. Let's get to work. 11. Test it before you trust it. The Fizz Test. Before we put even one drop of this stuff anywhere near your expensive air conditioner, we need to talk about why so many people try this method once, see nothing happen, and immediately decide it's just another useless internet trick. They read a tip online, grab an old bottle of peroxide, pour some down a drain line, wait for something dramatic to happen, and nothing does. So they assume the method failed. But the method didn't fail. Their peroxide was dead. Hydrogen peroxide is a highly unstable compound. Chemically, it's H2O2, which is essentially ordinary water carrying one extra, highly energetic oxygen atom. That extra oxygen is only loosely attached, and it spends its entire existence trying to break away. Heat speeds that process up. Light speeds it up. Exposure to air speeds it up. An unopened bottle of hydrogen peroxide can maintain its strength for roughly 3 years. But once you break that seal, the clock starts ticking. Within 1 to 6 months, that energetic H2O2 gradually breaks down until what you're left with is little more than expensive water. So how do you know whether your bottle is still ready to work? You perform what I call the Fizz Test. Before beginning any maintenance job, pour a small capful of peroxide onto something organic. That might be a little grease on your workbench, a tiny patch of mildew on a windowsill, or even a small speck of dirt. If the peroxide immediately erupts into thick white bubbles, and you can hear that faint hiss of activity, congratulations. Your bottle is alive, active, and ready for everything we're about to do. But if it just sits there, flat, quiet, and pooling like ordinary tap water, you're trying to clean with expired peroxide. You'll spend your afternoon wondering why the mold never moved. Don't waste your time. Throw that bottle out, buy a fresh one for about $1, screw the cap on tightly after every use, and keep it stored somewhere cool and dark. Back in supply and logistics, we never blindly trusted the label printed on a crate. We checked the cargo itself. Treat your home maintenance the same way. Check the fizz, or don't bother starting. 10. The magic of 3%. The danger of going big. Spend enough time searching the darker corners of the internet for cleaning tricks, and sooner or later, you'll find some self-proclaimed expert telling you that stronger always means better. They'll tell you to ignore the little pharmacy bottle and order 35% food-grade hydrogen peroxide by the gallon. Their reasoning sounds simple enough. If 3% works well, then 35% must be some kind of biological superweapon. Let me give you a serious warning. Do not do this. Industrial-strength 35% hydrogen peroxide is not a friendly household cleaner. It is an extremely corrosive chemical. Get it on bare skin, and it can immediately turn the skin white and cause painful chemical burns. And putting that concentration into your heating and cooling system can be even worse. It can aggressively attack plastic fittings, damage delicate rubber seals, and corrode metal components inside the equipment. That ordinary 3% bottle sitting on the pharmacy shelf is already the sweet spot. It's chemically strong enough to attack mold, algae, and bacterial cell walls at a molecular level, yet mild enough that you're not introducing an industrial-strength chemical into your home maintenance routine. If you're dealing with a clog or a dirty coil and it feels like the peroxide is working too slowly, that is not a signal to reach for stronger industrial chemicals. More often, it means the bottle you already have is old and has lost its strength. Stay with standard 3% hydrogen peroxide straight from the brown bottle. No mixing, no diluting, and no dangerous chemistry experiments. 9. The pan under the coil. Ground zero for slime. Every day during the hottest part of summer, your air conditioner is quietly performing an impressive job. It is pulling gallons of moisture directly out of the humid air inside your home. That moisture condenses on the freezing evaporator coil, drips downward, and collects in a shallow, dark pan located directly beneath the coil. Most homeowners have never looked inside that pan even once. It sits hidden away, almost completely undisturbed. It's dark, warm, and wet for months at a time. And that means this pan isn't just some secondary drainage component. This is ground zero. This is the biological factory. The clogs, bad odors, and backed-up drain lines that can eventually shut down your air conditioner often begin growing right here. Bacteria and mold create what scientists call a biofilm, a thick, slippery, gelatinous layer of living slime that sticks to the surface of the pan. That slime then works like a magnet. It catches dust, pet dander, hair, and anything else that manages to get past your filter. If you want to prevent clogs from shutting down your air conditioner, you have to go after the source. Treating the drain pipe while completely ignoring the pan is like cutting the top off a weed while leaving the roots in the soil. It grows back, and 6 weeks later you're wondering why your treatment didn't work. Start by shutting off power to the system at the main breaker. Remove the access panel so you can reach the indoor coil area. Then carefully pour 1 cup of fresh 3% hydrogen peroxide directly into the drain pan. Let it sit for about 10 minutes. You should hear fizzing and bubbling as the peroxide works against the biofilm sitting on the bottom of the pan. Use a clean cloth to wipe away anything you can safely reach. Then allow the remaining liquid to drain naturally. By sanitizing the pan before dealing with the downstream line, you attack the place where that biological buildup begins. The $900 photograph of one vent, the register boot illusion. Now we've reached the secret that saved me exactly $900, and the one you need to remember the next time somebody tries to sell you an expensive whole system service. The scenario is incredibly common. A technician removes one of your supply register grates, the metal vent covers located on your floor, wall, or ceiling. Then he slides a phone or a small inspection camera into the metal boot behind the register, takes a photograph, and turns the screen toward you. There it is, black spotting. Maybe some fuzzy-looking growth along the metal surface. Then comes the concerned expression. Your entire duct system is contaminated. We need to perform a complete duct cleaning and mold remediation. And the pitch works because the photograph looks terrifying. A typical duct cleaning can run between $300 and $700. Add the word mold, and suddenly that invoice can climb from $800 to more than $1,500. But here's the part they don't want you thinking about. Spotting on a register boot that you can literally reach with your own hand is a localized surface problem. It does not automatically mean your entire duct system has failed. Think about the physics inside your home. That metal register boot can become some of the coldest metal in the room because chilled air is constantly moving through it. At the same time, the outside of that metal sits right next to warm, humid room air. Cold metal meets warm, moist air. The metal sweats. Condensation forms right there at the register boot. Dust sticks to that moisture, the area stays dark, and black spotting begins to appear. But that photograph tells you nothing about the 40 feet of dry, insulated metal trunk line running through your attic. The moisture is forming at the tip, at the boot. So, instead of panicking, grab a spray bottle filled with fresh 3% hydrogen peroxide. Spray the reachable interior surface of that metal boot until it is visibly wet. Give it about 10 minutes. Then take a clean rag, wrap it securely around a stick or broom handle, and wipe the reachable metal surface clean. Remove the register grate, wash it in your sink with soap and water, reinstall it, and you're finished. 5 minutes on a Saturday. About 30 cents worth of peroxide. And that $900 sales pitch just disappeared. Now, to be fair, there are legitimate reasons to have ductwork professionally cleaned. Federal agencies such as the EPA say professional service can be appropriate when there is substantial visible mold growing deep inside the actual duct system, when vermin have infested the ducts, or when debris has accumulated so heavily that particles are physically blowing from the registers. But a $900 recommendation based entirely on one photograph of a sweaty register boot? That's not an inspection. That's a sales pitch. 7. The pipe that kills your AC in July. It's 100 degrees outside. The sun is hammering your roof. The humidity feels heavy enough to wear, and the temperature inside your house keeps climbing. You walk over to the thermostat. The screen is completely blank. The air conditioner is dead. Most homeowners immediately assume the worst. They think something catastrophic has failed, grab the phone, call an emergency technician, and prepare themselves for a premium weekend diagnostic bill. But 9 times out of 10, the air conditioner itself isn't broken. Its plumbing is dirty. Remember all that water collecting in the drain pan? It has to leave your house somehow, and it usually does that through one simple white PVC drain pipe. Inside that pipe, conditions are perfect for biological growth. It stays dark, damp, and warm throughout the cooling season. Algae and mold begin forming a slick film along the inside walls. Over time, that film catches dust and debris. The material builds, thickens, and eventually forms a biological plug. Then the water stops moving. As the drain backs up, a small float switch in the drain pan activates. Its job is to prevent overflowing water from destroying your ceiling, so it cuts power to the system. Your air conditioner didn't necessarily fail. It shut itself down to protect your house. If the system is already down, go outside and locate the point where that white PVC drain line exits the house. Take a wet-dry utility vacuum and seal the vacuum hose around the end of the pipe using a rag or your hand. Run the vacuum for 2 or 3 minutes. When the physical clog finally breaks loose, you may hear that unmistakable wet thunk as the blockage is pulled out from the far end. Once the line is open, head back inside. Find the T-shaped access fitting located on the drain pipe near your indoor unit. Remove the cap and pour in 1 cup of fresh 3% hydrogen peroxide. You'll hear the fizz as it works against the remaining living layer clinging to the PVC walls, helping prevent that layer from grabbing more dust and building another blockage. If your air conditioner is still working normally, you can skip the vacuum and simply pour a cup of peroxide into that T-fitting once a month during cooling season. A service call to clear a blocked condensate drain can cost anywhere from $75 to $250. Back in the Military Supply Corps, we had a saying, preventive maintenance is a scheduled routine, not an emotional reaction. Spend $1 on peroxide, make it part of your first Saturday routine every month, and keep that service call money in your wallet. 6. The truth about dirty sock syndrome. Have you ever turned on your air conditioner and been hit with a strange, musty odor for the first minute or so, only for the smell to fade once the system has been running? The HVAC trade has a remarkably accurate name for this: dirty sock syndrome. And that is almost exactly what it smells like, as if somebody stuffed a damp gym bag somewhere inside your vents. Most homeowners immediately assume the ductwork must be filthy. Then they start buying those $11 a month vent deodorizers and hanging air fresheners. But those products aren't solving anything. They're simply putting perfume over the symptom. The odor isn't necessarily coming from your ducts. It's coming from the evaporator coil, the network of aluminum fins inside the indoor unit that your household air passes across to become cold. Those fins spend the cooling season freezing cold and constantly wet with condensation. Under those conditions, a thin, almost invisible layer of biological growth can spread across the surface. When your air conditioner shuts off between cycles, that growth warms up and begins releasing odor. Then the blower motor starts again. That first blast of air carries the concentrated smell straight into your living space. If you can safely access the evaporator coil, shut off power at the breaker, and remove the access panel. Using a spray bottle filled with 3% hydrogen peroxide, gently mist the aluminum fins. Allow the peroxide to bubble, work against the living layer, and drain naturally into the pan below. But there is an important technical limitation here that anyone trying to sell you a miracle solution probably won't mention. Hydrogen peroxide can kill the living biological layer. It cannot dissolve years of baked-on, greasy household dirt. If the system has been ignored for a decade, and the coil is packed with grease, dust, and grime, then you're dealing with a different problem. That buildup requires a specialized foaming coil cleaner capable of breaking the bond. But if you stay ahead of the maintenance and treat the coil with peroxide annually, that living layer never gets the same opportunity to establish itself. And that damp gym bag smell doesn't get the chance to take over your house. 5. The box outside soaking itself. We've spent plenty of time talking about the indoor side of your system, but we can't ignore that big metal box sitting outside in the yard. The condenser. Your outdoor unit has one hard job. It takes the heat your system removed from inside the house and dumps that heat into the already hot outdoor air. To help accomplish that efficiently, many modern systems are equipped with something called a slinger ring attached to the fan blade. That ring takes collected condensation and throws the water onto the hot outdoor coil, helping release heat faster through evaporation. It's a clever piece of engineering. But there's a catch. That recycled water can be stagnant, and it may carry the same biological material found elsewhere in the system. When that moisture repeatedly hits hot outdoor fins and dries, it can leave organic residue behind. Now add grass clippings, leaves, pollen, and ordinary outdoor dust. Before long, the condenser coil starts getting choked. A lot of homeowners grab the garden hose, stand outside the unit, and blast water straight through the fins. The problem is that spraying from the outside can push dirt and debris deeper into those delicate aluminum fins, packing the material even tighter. Here's the better approach. First, shut off power at the outdoor electrical disconnect. Remove large leaves, grass, and loose debris by hand. Then spray a generous layer of 3% hydrogen peroxide across the metal fins and into the base pan where moisture tends to collect. Let it sit and fizz for about 10 minutes while it works against that organic buildup. Then use your garden hose to rinse the coil gently from the inside outward, pushing the dirt back in the direction it originally entered. And whatever you do, never use a pressure washer. Those high-pressure streams can flatten the paper-thin aluminum fins almost instantly, restricting airflow through the coil. If some fins are already bent, an inexpensive $8 metal fin comb can help straighten them. Keeping that outdoor coil clean helps protect the compressor, the single most expensive component in the entire system, from struggling and overheating through the summer. 4. The one machine you breathe directly. Almost every HVAC component we've discussed up to this point has an exit route. Dirty water, dissolved slime, and biological waste eventually drain away from your home through a pipe or hose. But there is one machine where the water doesn't simply drain away. Instead, it goes directly into the air you breathe. I'm talking about your humidifier. Whether you use a small portable humidifier beside your bed or a whole house unit attached directly to the furnace, these machines perform an important job during dry winter weather. But their operating principle is very different from a drain system. They take standing water, convert it into an extremely fine mist, and send that moisture directly into the air you may breathe for 8 hours every night. Leave that reservoir sitting long enough, and a thin biological film can begin growing along its walls. Turn the machine on, and now that same water is being atomized into the air. If the humidifier tank starts looking cloudy, or you notice white chalky scale building around the edges, your cleaning routine is already overdue. That scale isn't just ugly. Its porous surface creates an anchor where biological growth can settle and multiply. To clean the unit without leaving chemical fumes behind, empty the reservoir completely. Fill it halfway with 3% hydrogen peroxide and halfway with clean water. Let the mixture sit undisturbed for 30 minutes. While the tank is soaking, dip a cloth or brush into the solution and wipe the wick housing, float, and mist nozzle. When you're finished, rinse the reservoir thoroughly with fresh water twice and allow it to air dry completely before filling it again. This is one maintenance job I will never let you ignore, because the delivery system involved is your own breathing. 3. The dangerous chemical traps to avoid. Now we need to step back for a moment and talk about safety, because somewhere on the internet, someone is probably writing a blog post right now telling people to mix hydrogen peroxide and white vinegar together inside a spray bottle to create a double-strength DIY super cleaner. They may mean well, but they're teaching dangerous chemistry. When hydrogen peroxide and vinegar are mixed together in the same container, they can react and form an entirely different compound called peracetic acid. Peracetic acid is highly corrosive. Spray it inside a confined space, such as a small bathroom or an air conditioning drain line, and the vapor can burn your eyes, irritate your lungs, and inflame your skin. Seal that mixture inside a plastic spray bottle, and the reaction can continue releasing oxygen gas. Pressure builds until the plastic begins swelling and can eventually burst, throwing acidic liquid everywhere. Never mix these chemicals together in the same bottle, and never pour them one immediately after the other down the same drain line. If you want the benefits of both products, peroxide for attacking living biofilm and vinegar for dissolving hard water calcium deposits, you need to follow what I call the flush rule. Pour the peroxide into the line first. Give it 10 minutes to work. Then flush the line completely with clean water. Only after that water flush should you introduce vinegar. That flush is your safety margin. And while we're talking about chemicals, keep laundry bleach completely away from your air conditioning drain system. Bleach is strongly alkaline and aggressive. It can degrade the cement holding PVC pipe joints together and rapidly corrode metal drain pans. Instead of preventing an expensive problem, you could end up creating a major water leak behind the drywall, which is exactly the kind of disaster this maintenance routine is supposed to help you avoid. 2. The $1,000 machine that manufactures peroxide. Eventually, an HVAC sales technician may sit down at your kitchen table and introduce you to a whole home active air purifier. You'll hear names such as Rime Halo, Air Scrubber, or iWave. These devices are installed directly into the main supply ductwork and are marketed as systems capable of continuously treating the air throughout your entire home. Installed prices can range from around $600 to $1,800, followed by replacement cells every few years that can cost another $150 to $250. It sounds like technology pulled straight out of a spacecraft. But open the engineering documentation, look beyond the marketing language, and you'll eventually run into a term called photohydroionization. So what does that actually mean? The machine uses ultraviolet light and a catalyst to take naturally occurring moisture in the air and convert it into a microscopic mist of ionized hydrogen peroxide. In other words, It is manufacturing trace amounts of the same basic molecule sitting inside that $1 brown bottle under your sink. They are essentially selling you a machine built around the chemistry of your drugstore peroxide at a dramatically higher price. Now, let's be fair, because fairness matters if you expect people to trust what we do on this channel. These induct systems can do something your $1 bottle cannot. They continuously treat air throughout the entire house, 24 hours a day, while bottled hydrogen peroxide can only treat the physical wet surfaces where you actually apply it. The product is real, it functions, and it performs a legitimate job, but it is also one of the most heavily marked up and aggressively sold add-ons in the HVAC industry. Before buying one, remember two things. First, it is not a physical filter. Dust, pollen, and pet dander can still travel through the air unless you have a good physical filter capable of capturing those particles. Second, older or lower quality units can produce trace ozone as a byproduct, which may irritate sensitive lungs. So if a technician quotes you well over $1,000 for one of these systems, get another opinion. 9 times out of 10, if the problem you're trying to solve is simply a mysterious musty odor, you may not need a $1,000 active oxidizer. You may just need access to your drain pan, your evaporator coil, a fresh bottle of peroxide, and one free Saturday morning. 1. The hidden bill with no invoice. The efficiency trap. Everything we've talked about so far has focused on preventing a sudden, painful service bill. But this final secret is different. This one is about a bill you may already be paying every single month, even though nobody has ever printed it as a separate line on an invoice. Most homeowners worry about the dramatic failure. They worry about the day their air conditioner stops blowing cold air entirely. What they often ignore is the electric bill arriving every month while the system still appears to be working. Remember that thin layer of biological slime we've been talking about? When it spreads across the indoor evaporator coil, it behaves like a thermal blanket covering a cold surface. The slime insulates those metal fins. That means the warm air inside your house cannot make the same direct contact with the freezing copper tubing underneath. Heat transfer drops. And when heat transfer drops, your HVAC system has to operate longer, harder, and more often just to reach the temperature you selected on the thermostat. Nothing appears broken. The fan still runs. Cold air may still come from the vents. No warning light appears. No technician arrives at the front door. But the system is quietly consuming more electricity to perform the same job. And this isn't just a guess. The American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers, ASHRAE, has documented that a fouled, slime-coated coil can reduce operating efficiency by 10% to 25%. The U.S. Department of Energy also states that a dirty condenser coil can increase compressor energy consumption by as much as 30%. That represents a massive hidden tax on every cooling bill you pay from May through October, month after month, year after year. Money quietly disappearing from your bank account. So when spring arrives, before the first brutal hot day of the season, perform the complete preventive maintenance routine. Shut off the power, mist the coils with 3% hydrogen peroxide, sanitize the drain pan, flush the drain line, and let me be completely clear about one thing. Hydrogen peroxide does not repair mechanical parts. It will not fix a failed capacitor. It will not replace a dying blower motor. And it cannot restore refrigerant that has leaked from the system. Refrigerant work is dangerous and requires a federal license for very good reasons. But that invisible biological layer we've been discussing is behind a surprising percentage of summer service calls, and many of the expensive, high-pressure upsells homeowners face at the front door. Conclusion: the quartermaster philosophy. At the end of the day, maintaining a home comes down to one simple choice. You can operate your house using what I call the replacement model. Ignore the equipment, let the slime grow, let efficiency slowly decline. Wait until something finally stops working, then hand thousands of dollars to a professional to replace whatever failed. Or you can run your house using the maintenance model. Spend 15 minutes and a couple of dollars keeping the equipment clean and operating the way it was designed to operate. During my 30 years in the Military Supply Corps, keeping soldiers equipped while working under budgets Congress seemed determined to keep cutting, I learned one universal lesson. A system managed with scheduled maintenance costs a fraction of a system managed through emergency replacement. And every industry that makes money selling replacements understands exactly which model its customers are following. So let's add up the basic kit. 1 fresh bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide, 1 plastic spray bottle, $2, 1 small plastic funnel, $2, 1 aluminum fin comb, if you need it, $8, and a wet-dry utility vacuum, something you may already have sitting in the garage. For less than $15, you can put yourself between a routine maintenance problem and an unexpected service call, an aggressive duct cleaning quote, or a $1,000 sales pitch. So which job are you taking on first? Are you going after that sweating register boot in the hallway, or are you flushing the air conditioner drain line before the July heat arrives? Tell me in the comments below. I read and reply to every single one. And if you want to see the other half of this inexpensive maintenance world, click the video appearing on your screen right now. We cover 9 hydrogen peroxide secrets that professional plumbers can charge $300 to handle, including one clever toilet trick almost nobody knows about. Thanks for watching The Roots Survived. Keep your systems clean, keep your money in your pocket, and I'll see you in the next debrief.